Good morning. Welcome to this June 20th Board of Commissioners meeting. Our first item is public comment. Do we have anyone here for the public comment? I'm going to fit you in right after this, Anita. So I don't see any, so I'll move on, and I'm going to make a couple of adjustments to the order here because we have some people on some tighter time schedules. So the first one I'm going to go to is actually under new business, and it'll be the Frankfurt utility easement. And we have our general manager from the municipal utilities, Todd Corey, here, and who can kind of walk us through it, if you don't mind. Yep, that'd be great.
Good morning, everyone. As you know, with the annex building getting ready to go up, we had looked into redoing all of the electrical work in that alley to get it from overhead to underground. And with that being said, then we were looking for an easement so that we could do that on what would be the north side of the old barrier wall that was there, because in the alley it's just too congested to actually dig and put anything in there. And we have talked to three of the five property owners, and they are willing to do their part to get everything underground, which means upgraded services and everything like that. And we have also talked to the RDC about helping out with this project, because the whole project is about $250,000. And the people around the square are in the TIF district, so their tax dollars are going into the TIF funds, which then, as you guys know, that's where the RDC gets their money. And we went to them last month and proposed this to them, and I'm 99% sure that they're going to pitch in and they're going to pay for the material, and then the utilities are going to do the labor along with you guys granting us the easement. And the only request that the RDC had was that they would be able to utilize the parking lot in the evenings or on the weekends when they have concerts and events at Prairie Creek Park. So that's what I was here for, to discuss with you guys and see what we could get worked out. And then we're going to have that whole alley cleaned up. The alley between Ellis's and Arnie's is also going to be put underground so that they can use that for outdoor seating, things like that. And we have had great cooperation and good input and everything. But like I said, the RDC has just requested to be able to use the parking lot in evenings and weekends.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Gentlemen, any questions?
Oh, I don't, not at all. I feel fine with it.
Okay. So it's a 20-foot easement on the north side of our property. And then I think, kind of to follow up a little bit on Todd's comments, maybe we could, Tom, work on an agreement with the RDC that just memorializes that we're willing to allow them to use the parking lot for events and evenings, just so they're more comfortable. I think they were looking for something.
That's all that they were looking for,
in writing.
yes.
So with
And
that,
I'll be attending their meeting next Thursday to get verification that they're helping out with this project and everything, and I can let them know that, if it's a verbal commitment at this point in time.
okay.
Okay?
Yep, so I will entertain a motion for the utility easement with Frankfurt Municipal Utilities.
So moved. Second.
All right, motion carries 3-0, and I believe that comes with us agreeing to the parking lot with the RDC, so we'll work on getting an agreement, but I think you can verbally let them know we're on board with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
See you, Todd.
Have a great day. Thank you for squeezing me.
Yep. Okay, so next up is, we have Anita Stewart with United Way here. Good morning, Anita.
Good morning, guys. It's that time of year again. I'm starting to work on our annual campaign. In the last 2 years, you guys have been pace setters for United Way. So each year we come before you guys to see if you're interested in doing that again. So a pace setter is basically somebody who helps lead our campaign. They do it in the month of August, which is August the 1st through August the 31st. And you set the pace for the other people who start in September. And usually to be a pace setter, you have to be a good leader in the community and somebody who has definitely supported United Way, which you guys have. And with that, we also asked to see if you guys would be interested in doing the fair share again this year. That's where if a person gives 1 hour of pay a month, that they would get a United Day off with pay, which you guys have done the last couple of years. And so just asking permission to do that, and Carol Price has agreed to be the lead for the Paysetter for the county. Each division we have people who lead those divisions, and you guys all know Carol, she's a go-getter. And she's interested in being the lead for the county, and she'd pick a couple other people to help her. So I'm just here to ask permission to be able to have the county be a Paysetter for us this year and have a fair share, so.
Thank you. Guys?
I don't have a problem with it at
No,
all.
not at all.
I think it's important,
Yeah,
and I'm glad to have the county be a part of it, so thank you for what you do, Anita.
Yeah, thank you. I support it as well, that we continue with what we've done. So maybe let's just make it official. We'll take a motion here.
I'll make the motion that we go ahead and support the Paysetter program, fair share, and the 1 day off for the county per the guidelines.
I'll second.
All right, motion carries 3-0. Will you let Carol know?
Oh, yeah, I'll let
All
Carol
right.
know. Thank you.
See ya.
All right, now back to our agenda here. We have Kevin Calhoun with a Document Mountain proposal. Good morning, Kevin.
Gentlemen, my name is Kevin Calhoun with Document Mountain. Jason Hatch is my vice president. We come before you today because, gentlemen, you have a paper problem. And I'd like to just present this simple fact that this is 5 pounds of paper. The question is, how much is actually a box of paper weigh? More to the point is, how much paper weight is your building actually trying to support at this point in time? Again, you have a paper issue. For more than a year, Document Mountain has been analyzing Clinton County's paper issue, and over the course of 17 individual meetings and multiple conversations with the auditor, the clerk, treasurer, commissioner, Mr. Weaver, Mr. Dunn, and the rest of the department heads, we've been assessing what the magnitude of that paper issue actually is. And a simple view of the problem is you have more than 4,000 boxes of paper. As a matter of fact, you have about 4,300 boxes of paper sitting above you on the 4th and 5th floor and distributed through the departments as you have. That basically constitutes, that means that you have more than 14 million pages of paper. And in light of this, it'd be extremely difficult to argue against the fact that paper records are costly to create and maintain. They're time-consuming to manage and manipulate. They're invasive in the amount of space that they actually take up in your building. You don't have a backup for your paper records. They're vulnerable to physical damage. They do not have an audit trail associated with them. There's no way to understand who's touched them, what did they do with them, and the reason why they did that. And they're not accessible from your desktop. The bottom line is paper records cost time, money, and space. To answer the question is, how much weight is your building actually trying to support and how much paper weight your building is actually trying to support? Imagine parking a 757 on top of your building. You have more than 200,000 pounds of simple paper within your building at this point in time. And that's why basically when you were consider moving across the street, the engineers estimated that it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars simply to move the records as well as reinforce the flooring that would be associated with storing those records. Commissioners, Indiana Code says this, Indiana Code 5-15-5.1-10.3 states this: the one main duty of all agencies, local governments, is to establish and maintain an active and continued program for the economic and efficient management of information. While paper records may have originally fulfilled this, as it's been stated in the past, is that most offices have been digital now for a while, so we're not going to be creating any more paper. So the question is, what are you to do with the existing paper that you have within the records that you have within the building? Luckily for Clinton County, Indiana Code makes contingencies specifically for this. So Indiana Code 5-15-1-1 states that if any employee of the county shall deem it necessary for the purpose of protecting and preserving your records, as well as reducing the space required for their storage, may have or cause to have any or all such records copied by any process which correctly and accurately copies the original record. The original may be destroyed, and the copy shall have the same force and effect as the original in a court of law. Again, in Indiana Code 5-15-5.1-17B, the administration may make a copy by photography or any other means necessary for any official book, record, document, original paper, newspaper, or printed book or material. The local government shall permit these copies to be made. And finally, Indiana court system has actually come in and weighed in on this issue as well. Trial Rule 77 states this, that the fact that these courts have multiple record types that come into their system and have to retain these for almost a permanent basis. So Trial Rule 77A said these documents can be stored in a form of paper, microfilm, and fun fact, it goes on to note, only if authorized, or electronic records. Now, at Document Mountain, we get it. Dealing with physical records can definitely be overwhelming. And that's why for the last 25 years, we've been working with organizations to basically streamline thousands of processes so that millions of documents can be better managed and contained in a digital format. The organizations that we work with save time, money, and space. Now, interestingly, previously, each individual department in Clinton County, when we were first brought in over a year ago, was assessing a document management type solution. Had you moved forward with all of those different proposals, and there was at least 5 at the time when we were brought in, your information would have been spread across multiple organizations and in multiple databases. You would have lost the ability to find the truth within your information, your records. What I would like you to consider as you see Document Mountain, and we'll show you an example of that here in a second, is that we bring a little bit different scenario to the table. We want to be one view of the truth versus all these other vendors. We're proposing that all of the departments will be inside of one system that will give each individual with the right permissions the ability to find that one view of the truth of the county's information. So this will be a quick presentation because I want to honor your time, but Mr. Hatch will jump on, I believe, Britt's PC and bring up Document Mountain real quick. And what our hope is,
It has died.
Oh,
yes.
so we're watching here?
Yes.
Okay.
all right,
We can get it on.
Okay, so you guys can see it on the other monitors. We'll go through a quick brief presentation of the Document Mountain software. Herein, I will log into Clinton County, their own container, which will go into and start to present all of the folders that we set up for all of the departments. And so on the left-hand side, you'll see the folders that we've kind of gone through and done some examples for the assessor, the archives, the clerk, commissioners, reporters. And as we go through this, permissions are set by users and by groups. So if those are allowed to see the assessor records, they would be able to see those. If they're not, that folder would be non-existent to that. And we can even get into the situation of allowing the public to come in and see what public records there are necessary for that. So I'm going to kind of go through a couple of examples where right now, the records are all upstairs. There's no real way to actually see them. Here we're all right here, and in seconds we're actually able to come in and see those actual records. So I'll bring up a few here in the example of some court records. We have some key field values that we're attaching to those files, and so we can come in and actually open up one of these documents to see what they look like. So with the files, we've got our opportunity to come in, take a look at the actual files and the clarity of the files as we've done some examples through those. And then inside the actual file, we can actually search and look for additional information, and it'll highlight that for us, something that can't be done in the paper format, right? Not only the opportunity to see inside of the file, but actually search inside of the actual text of those files that are there, right? So here also we've got our key fields, but a big piece is how painful is it for us to actually come in and locate the file. While we might know the cause number or part of the clerk files that we're using here, we can come in and actually look for someone's name, and it'll actually allow us to search inside of it, making it even easier to locate, right? We're going to extract all that text out of that file and use it for searching purposes. So in the event we don't even know necessarily the cause number, we know who it is, or maybe an address or a time period, and we can actually use that as information up from that, right? We kind of touched a little bit about the security. Each file has its own, what we call activity log or an audit trail, and this tracks who, what, when, and where did they actually do anything with those files. So that electronic thumbprint of that can't be done in the paper format or the physical world. We can make sure who's in it, who's touched it. We can go back and have situational or conversations about what had happened with that file from that side. Another part of this is kind of some aged records and how long those files sit inside or what they look like when they're inside of the solution. We had done a few for Clinton County that were back into the 1920s and what one of those files would actually look like. Just kind of want to bring that up to show you that they are capable of being brought in. They're legible. We can come in and see what they look like. I know some of these things are folded, and while we may see a bit of lines, I think the record actually proves itself to be just as legible it would be in paper format versus the electronic format. So I'm just going to scroll through some of this. So you kind of see that darker line where the where that bend is on the paper, but still very legible. See what it looks like in the digital form instead of the paper form. I'll bring up one also from a previous presentation back from 1967, just to kind of show, or 1867, I'm sorry, as to how far back that actual file goes. So just a moment while this loads. As we kind of go through this, our goal here is an economical and efficient way to manage our records. And as we're going through multiple records, we're going through them very quickly instead of in the manual format. But here, handwritten, very pretty cursive, but it's still very legible for us to see what the actual file looked like, even back from that time.
So is the search function able to pick up words even in this handwritten cursive?
In the handwritten, it's not quite as good. Any typewriter, computer-written generated information is usually very good for us to search. Just unfortunately, it's just not as efficient in the handwriting side.
Okay.
You can train it to learn it from that. Sometimes it's just not as effective, but typically we strive towards the computer-generated information. But again, the tags, how it was stored in paper format, gives us our minimum of being able to come in and locate it as if it were today. What drawer are we going to? What box are we going to? You know, those key tags are going to be associated to those files. So I think lastly, or move on from that side, are there any questions on this that maybe I could answer?
I guess the only thing, it's kind of related, but it could be towards the end as well. So the public will have access to the public documents, and it's
That is
an
entirely up
option
to
that
an
we have?
option that you
Okay.
can have. Yes, I've got clients who utilize this solution to give opportunity for the public to see records.
and so is that can that be integrated to our current website, or do they have to go to this kind of portal?
They won't even know we exist.
Okay.
Yeah, it can all be behind the scenes.
All right.
So gentlemen, I appreciate you taking time to view that, to give you that one view of the truth and to initiate this project. Just a natural question would be, what's the actual investment for this? On average, it's about 12 cents per page. Or as the quote that I've provided in front of you states, is that it's a little less than $1.8 million, which really you should never associate $1.8 million and a little less in the same sentence, but it is what it is. And you'll see immediate return as these records start to begin digitized and be able to start to be retrieved from your desktop. A good follow-up question to this is this actually a good value? We've alluded to the fact that there was a number of bids put in previously. We did an analysis specifically on the clerk's department, did a line-by-line analysis of the services that were being proposed by another vendor, and found that we would be saving Clinton County over $150,000 by doing exactly the same services. This is more than a 35% savings over this other vendor. To extrapolate this and to give it a little bit more weight, Indiana actually has its own imaging and microfilm laboratory. If you were to quote out exactly the same services and have the state of Indiana do this for you, they would not want to charge you more than 40 cents per page. So we would be saving you by instead of taking this to the state of Indiana, we'd be saving you more than 75% by doing that. And fun fact is they have a max of 10 boxes. So I don't think they're going to be able to help you with your 43 4,300 boxes that you have. Now, the final question is, what does this look like upon completion? What will ultimately you be receiving? You've seen what will be after you digitize, but what will your space look like? You're not pioneering this. Your neighbors to the north in Howard County went through exactly the same situation. We'd like to show you a kind of a before and after with Howard County. They had a little bit of an issue, and I can't really see this, so I'm going to let you kind of talk through it. But they had a little bit of an issue when one of their employees thought it would be a great thing to leave the water running on the floor above where the records were stored and had the water cascade down on top of their records.
So you can kind of see the picture there of all the records where the water had kind of come through on both sides and what that had actually damaged. These records dated back to the early 1900s. They came through and tried to save as much of them as they could. We had kind of come through, you'll kind of see there a representation of the Dock Mountain solution that we've started to put their records into. And they basically had us come out, map the project out, come in and, basically they just opened the doors. We came in and took all this stuff out. And then kind of they've actually transitioned the rooms to training centers. To kind of give that before and after of what the rooms looked like with the records, and what they've transformed their current space into.
So gentlemen, again, to achieve this type of results, the same as Howard County did, you need to initiate this project. Once you did that, what would happen is we would put labels, we would box all your documentation up, we would label those boxes, number them, put on those boxes basically the record types that were in there, the record range from A to C or whatever the case may be. All that information would be put into what's called a chain of custody document. This would be an agreement between Document Mountain and Clinton County that if you needed Jim Smith's records while we were processing them, there's a portal on our website that you'd simply be able to put in, Britt would be able to put in Jim Smith. And we would immediately find that record, digitize it, and put it into Document Mountain. Basically, we would become an extension of your records management arm. So Britt would no longer have to go up to the 4th and 5th floor to find a record. She just simply contacts us. We would find it and put it into the system for her. Those records then would be scanned, digitally transformed, submitted to what's called an OCR process, where Jason was alluding to the fact that every computer-generated word, so think Quick, Brown, Fox, if you put in every instance of Quick, Brown, or Fox would actually pull up in the inside of the text in the documents themselves. These records then would be named with specific index values. That could be a cause number, it could be last name, first name, it could be date of birth, whatever the department heads dictate to us. So it's very configurable for each of the departments. And then that data would be stored in the only Tier 4 plus data center in the United States. It actually writes the security policies for all other data centers across the North America. This would then be backed up nightly to St. Louis. So what you can't do right now with your paper records, just as Howard County where they lost their records, this would be backed up every single night and you would always have a copy of those records. Commissioners, basically to solve your paper problem, my proposal is that you initiate this project, and I appreciate your time and consideration. Any questions?
Yes. How long do you think this would take?
So we were talking to Mr. Dunn about that in regards to the funding and how that would actually work. We're able to work at your speed.
Okay.
So if you were able to say, let's eat the elephant one bite at a time, we could do it over however many months you wanted to.
Okay.
If you were to say, get it done as quickly as possible would probably be a year.
Okay.
Jordan, a couple things that, first of all, I became aware of these guys about 2 years ago. Actually, Kevin had spoke at a Crossing annual dinner, and they had started a program where they were helping students. That's where I became aware of them. And in checking, some of the advantages also that hasn't been talked about is that obviously Envoy had initially anticipated moving those boxes and put them in storage racks, etc. And they were willing or able to back off about $500,000 of the expense of doing that because the anticipation is it will not be done. So in reference to the moving of the boxes and so forth, Envoy has agreed to cut back that because they're not going to be needed to do that. So that's going to save us $500,000 within that year period by not moving that stuff to the next location. So I think that's an advantage that just because of time is going to a certain degree, help us.
One question, well, maybe two here. So when you scan the document, does the department head then have some input to decide if it's acceptable or unacceptable in terms of how it comes into the portal, I'll call it?
Yes, actually, I mean, great example. We work very closely with each of the department heads to do two things. One, image quality, and two, naming convention, so that index value that goes on there. So there's a pre-meeting with each department head to say, are we capturing the information correctly? And is the image quality up to your standards? A good example was there were some court cases that were in color. So we're actually going to sit down with Stephanie here a little later and say, here's 4 or 5 different options, which is best for the actual clerk's department. And then that goes on, we'll scan probably 10 boxes and have another meeting exactly the same way to make sure that, things are going well. And the nice part about this is it's going directly into the system that they have access to. So they always have the ability to have eyes on the project as it's moving forward.
Okay. And then the second question on obviously you mentioned the one-time digitalization investment, and then we have the ongoing kind of monthly.
Correct.
But those numbers will change as images are added, correct? Because right now it shows the 14 million in the monthly investment, but that's assuming we don't, the clerk's going to add stuff every month to it.
That would be true,
Okay.
correct.
So that'll be kind of an adjusting number monthly based on how.
That number is based off of the 14 million
Yeah.
that we've addressed, which would be 99% of the records that you have right now. So anything that would be ongoing would be rather minuscule unless you find some treasure trove of other records that are out there. So bringing on one additional file you won't even see the difference.
Yeah, of course, of one, but I think every month every department will add because we'll want to stay up on our record keeping.
Very true.
So, I mean,
Our hope is we never have to come back for it to you guys and scan again. We want to get you, the nice part about Document Mountain is that we want to enable each department and the archivist and everybody else to have the ability to add records into Document Mountain. So again, we're striving to have one view of the truth. So one thing that we will do is each department has multifunction machines. So scanner, printer, copier, those types of things. We can hook into those where records can be brought directly into Document Mountain from there. We've even talked to Britt in regards to some workflow, some real light workflow applications where information will come into her email account, and we have tied directly into Outlook where that data can be taken directly into Document Mountain without having to leave Outlook.
okay.
So there'll be a lot of workflow capabilities added into this that are just baked into the system.
Okay. I know we have a few department heads here that this is going to impact. Is there anything you'd like to say? I'll give you the opportunity now.
I have a couple more questions.
Okay, go ahead, Josh.
Do you also work with our health department and our EMS? I know we have at EMS, we probably have at least a dozen file cabinets full of documents that we're just storing.
We've
So-
not been introduced to them, but
Okay.
it'd be very
Have
easy.
do you have history doing that in other places though?
Yes.
Okay. Because I could see a lot of people want to get their birth certificate or death certificates, and I could see that being, I don't know if that's if we could get that to where you could purchase those online as opposed to having to come here and actually get them or have them mailed to you.
We've had multiple discussions in regards to creating the portal, as you alluded to, for the public records, being able to go in and say, I would like to see this record, and there might be a fee
Right.
associated with it,
Okay.
where you could basically have revenue coming back into the county.
Okay. And lastly, we talk about, there's a lot of these records that aren't in boxes, that are in, the big ledger books. I assume you guys are copying those also, or only the ones that were in boxes?
No, sir, we're doing the ledger books as well, so.
Okay.
That's a little bit more of a white glove type of process.
Yeah.
We don't want to destroy the binding on that. So basically, there's technology, it's a book scanner, basically. It's
Yeah.
going to sit open, and then each page will be flipped, and an image will be taken of both sides. And the reason for that is the entry actually goes from left to right, all the way across, and then each of those entries will be indexed. So right now, it'd be, you might get an entire book and have to go find, page 97, you have to find that actual entry. This will actually make it much more searchable, because each of those entries will be actual indexed as well.
Okay. So we're not getting rid of those, right, Grace?
No.
I hope not.
Yeah, I mean,
I also hope that we're not getting rid of all the old trifolds.
Yeah.
The archives is gonna be 1,200 square foot. I've also asked for a high density storage, we can store quite a bit
Okay.
there. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that, talk about the line in the 1900s. If those are put into a humidifier, which I do, you do not see the line. Once that's infused with water, it's
Okay.
as if they're pristine the day that they came out. And the other thing is that if you take these have been folded for so long, and if you force them open, you are breaking the fibers. And so then that leads to destruction. If anything that doesn't want to open, place it in a humidity bath,
Okay.
humidity chamber, and it will naturally unfold.
okay.
And that's what I do now. When I spoke to Kevin, I don't know, a couple of years ago, or a year ago, I asked him about those. I've worked with these for over 4 years, and there's some that are extremely brittle. And he said he hadn't come across any, but I've worked with them for over 4 years. And you can't force anything like that.
But you guys have experience working with things like that?
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
showed you examples of those.
Okay.
And back from, my desire is to work with you. This is not a contention. I mean, it's not us versus them type of situation. There will be records of antiquity. There will be records that are brittle, and I would love to work specifically with you to ensure that those are able to be brought into the system. And so we would flag those records and basically provide them to you you could basically help us out at that point in time. And even provide you with a flatbed scanner where those records could be basically laid down and digitized and then brought into Document Mountain. And that's technology that we provide
Okay.
to the doctor.
Okay.
And again, taking apart records, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Be left in that.
All right. We'll work through it.
So,
As
One more
records-
question,
records
and I
managers,
swear
I
I'll
know,
quit.
have a different view.
Oh, I
That's
know.
our
I get it.
perspective.
The recorder's office, there's an extraordinary amount of documentation there. Were they included?
yes.
They were? I don't see them on here.
Oh, you know what? Actually, forgive me.
Microfilm? That's probably microfilm, isn't it? to be
Microfilm, one, and two, I believe they've already done some work as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
Previously. To that point, any work that's been done in digitizing records can easily be brought into Document Mountain.
determined? Okay.
So the reason why we didn't dive into that is they've already put some
I think you're
labor.
right. I
Yeah,
remember
they-
here overnight.
Yeah,
remember
they
that?
have their,
Okay.
signed up on that other.
No more questions.
Yep.
You're good.
Okay.
At this point, I'll make a motion that we accept the proposal that's been placed before us.
Have we decided if we're gonna bite it off all at once, or if we're gonna piece at it?
I think it was approved by council because, some more background, it's part of the whole renovation project. And as Bert alluded to, although it's not one-to-one savings, there's a savings in terms of having to take everything out of this building, transfer it over, and then transfer it back, where now it's being digitalized. So I wasn't at the council meeting, so I don't know I know they approved the amount,
They approved the amount.
but I don't know in terms of the timing of it. So
I think necessarily the timing was going to be tied in with the bond situation.
Okay.
But they had agreed to do the full amount, and then I believe then it was going to be left up to both Alan and to Kevin if they wanted to alter that payment, but it was anticipated to doing it at once and being done.
And I know, Bert, you've worked very hard on this project, and you did a great job of bringing in all the department heads and having multiple meetings with it. So maybe you can be involved in those conversations to kind of lead the direction of
most
how
definitely.
the timing flow of it. So
Yeah, and we've really not totally narrowed down storage as far as time goes. Some documents will obviously be destroyed because they're not needed or necessary. Others are going to need to be kept forever or whatever. So,
To that
there's a
point,
lot of
basically,
small details that
I was
will
just
be
gonna say, we're gonna
ongoing.
work with the department heads specifically at their guidance and whatever the retention schedule is for those records.
Right.
I'm
So-
fine with it as long as it's pay as you go, but I'm not fine with it for writing a check for $1.79 million. So,
I think I didn't get a chance to fully review the contract. I don't know if Tom, if you went through it, but what about if we approve the project and we work through the contract details, which would have something to do with the pay schedule as well? Is that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Would that work for you, Kevin? Okay. All right. So we had a motion.
Motion's made.
second.
Second. Got it. Motion carries 3-0 to move forward with the digitalization project, part of the overall project, and then we'll work through that contract with you. So, all right. Great. Thank you for your presentation.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, John.
Okay, next up is John Query with a water tower project update, and I believe, I hesitate to even say this, but the final change order.
Yeah, good morning. John Query for the record. So, yeah, I wanted to give an update on the elevated water tank at the I-65 State Road 28 interchange. This is kind of the last piece of the utility project that was started several years ago to extend utilities to the interchange. It basically went into operation the end of April and was substantially complete on May the 25th. There are a few punch list items, minor things left for the contractor to complete. Those are scheduled to be done by the end of June. And I do have a change order. This is change order number 4. Excuse me. This is actually a decrease, a credit change order for the electrical service from Titmont REMC. There was an allowance in the bid early on, budgeted amount for that service, and it actually ended up being less for the actual cost to install that. So it's a credit of $11,500 on this change order. And so in total for this project, there was a contingency going in, which is typical for projects of this size, of over $100,000. And at this point, it's basically, we used $290 of the contingency when you look at all 4 change orders. So I know
pretty good.
I know schedule-wise, it was frustrating, and that's just kind of nature of the business right now. I mean, electrical gear is there's things that are taking a long time to get and delays, and particularly on this project, the generator took a very long time to get. So we did have some schedule delays along the way.
Yeah, but in this climate, only being over $290 on our budget's pretty,
Yeah, that's really pretty good, and
that's
it's
amazing.
great. It's really good. For again, this is almost a $3 million project. So, and yeah, like I said, there's a few punch list items the contractor needs to complete, but the tank is operational, the booster station's operational, so everything's moving along.
And the utilities, Frankfurt Utilities signed off on it. They were, Chris Hensley was integral in making sure everything was working to their satisfaction, and they've
Yes.
confirmed that with us. So just
Yeah, I worked closely with Chris the last few months to get everything, make sure it met his standards, and then Todd signed the substantial completion and everything, so, yeah, it's
good deal.
winding down. So, the change order, I think we probably need a motion for that one, but it'll end up being signed by the building corporation as the funding, or the financing
Okay.
component of it.
Make a motion to approve change order number 4.
Second.
Okay, motion carries 3-0. Okay, thank you, John. We appreciate all the work. I know we had lots of emails back and forth, but
Yeah.
we are happy with it, and the utilities are happy with it, so we're excited it's up and running, so.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, thank you, I appreciate your time and everything. And,
Congratulations on a nice job.
thank you.
Okay, next on the list is Matt Neal and Larita Pearson with the Fair Council update. Good morning.
How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This really isn't what I wanted to give you, but Beardsley doesn't have everything ready yet.
That's okay.
As I'm sure you guys know, last year we switched and Beardsley's are handling all of our inputs and paperwork in terms of for everything out at the fairgrounds. So unfortunately, they didn't have everything quite ready, but in front of you is just a general ledger of what we did this past year. Expenses, inputs, incomes. Just taking a few minutes to let you know and kind of update you on what we've had going on the last year. We are at capacity now in the horse rental and training. So all the barns are full. And so one of our expenses has been a little bit more manure removal each month.
I see the
but
truck a lot more often. than I
yeah,
used to. Used to
yeah.
like Saturday or Sunday, now it's a couple
Well,
times a week.
we're very fortunate because
Yeah.
Dave does a great job, and two, he does it at his convenience and cuts us a really good rate just as part of the give back to the community on his part. So we're very fortunate there. We did finally get our electric back up and going from the tornadoes. That was a little bit of a slow process, and I know some people weren't happy about it, but, as in this environment, that's just the way it is to get the process done and
Yeah, it looks good.
done correctly. One thing we've changed this year in our we did not hire out our mowing. We went ahead and purchased a lawnmower when you guys were at our meeting, we discussed that program. We are currently using the inmate program with Rich and Ashley. The guys, be honest with you, they're doing better job than the professionals did because they're not in a hurry to get in, get out, and move on to their next projects. So some of the expenses that we are incurring, which I have figured up that has been less than when we were paying a professional, is we're going to Rural King and we were able to get a lot of chemicals donated by Co-Alliance.
No.
So after we went through the donated chemicals, we have purchased some at Rural King just to keep up with the spraying. But I think we're, in the manicure process. I think the guys, to Rich and the county sheriff's department, the guys are doing a fabulous job.
It looks good. I saw them trimming trees the other day. All the trash is picked up out of the fence rows. I mean, the place looks great.
Yeah, and as part of that mower project, what we figured up, being a government entity, John Deere gave us 3 years, 0% financing on the project. And our plan is, as long as this keeps working good with this program, is to just keep rolling it every 3 years when that comes up so that we have a machine that, will pretty much always be under warranty. When we purchased it, we also get a one at the end of season service and check over with that. And we got a little sprayer that goes with the Gator. And we utilize that Gator a lot also. We can hook it to our trailers, pull things around, and kind of gets us away from using a lot of our personal equipment. And we figured up, I think we're gonna pretty much, even with the expense of the payments of the equipment, we're gonna lower our budget by almost half of what we've been paying in the past.
Nice.
Any questions from anybody right now for us?
I know we met earlier in the year and we talked about trying to come up with some, you guys were going to come up with some, we talked about how maybe we couldn't do the big project all at once, but we would start trying to piece out the smaller projects.
And that was one thing I wanted to discuss today, because I know you guys had mentioned, budgets coming here in June, and we met and have discussed a couple meetings, and one of I think our first project that we'd like to tackle, we think for safety reasons, is to see what kind of money we can appropriate to starting to get some of the electrical around the Edward Jones building and the grandstands area underground. I know last year, I believe Jordan had met us out there with Skiles, Jamie and I. Was it 2 years ago? Time flies.
Yeah.
And I think at that time it was around 160,000 for the first phase.
Okay.
Because we'd kind of figured it up in 3 phases for the entire ground, 3 or
Yeah.
4, because it is a large expense and, but we kind of felt that the target area to get started on that project should be around the grandstands because we've got 3 different ways electrical is coming in over the years that's just been kind of patched and added and so I think, so I think we can do some things, but we just want to see what we can get into the budget.
Okay.
Hopefully we can maybe start with 150,000 and we'll do as much as we can
Right.
with our contractors.
Yeah.
And then next year we'll try to bite off a little bit more. And in addition to, the inmates being out there, hey, they're doing a lot of rebuild projects. We had a bunch of metal come off the grandstands. I went to Gilman's and got $60 worth of lumber, and I had metal company or Builds Barnes, Matt Johnson, you probably know him. He donated me the metal to fix it, just gave it to us. So, that's one thing that I think has been really positive about this new program with the inmates. Hey, we're getting a lot more work done, and the only inconvenience for us as a board is we got to lock and unlock everything every morning and every night, but it's not a big deal.
No big deal.
So that's kind of where we're at with the fairgrounds, and that gives you, see, we were profitable again this year, and, trying to think outside the box to see where we're at. And I guess I would have one question. Do we, are we at a standstill with the grandstand project or anything else, or?
I mean, I think so. It was $1.4 million
Yeah.
two years ago, so.
Well, just so you guys know, we are doing some investigating. Chase Thompson, was doing a little investigation about maybe we just look at, tear them down and purchase some smaller ones. We're looking into some grants possibilities for that because, overall, I think that grandstands, I don't think we need something that big in today's age. So as we kind of get some ideas and some things put together, we'll try to keep you updated and give you some ideas. Because I assume that, what has been budgeted is still possibly out there eventually.
I don't know if that would be a fair assessment. It's hard to say. I mean,
Okay.
it rolls over, so council's probably allocated it elsewhere each year. But it doesn't mean something with an option or options can't become available as well, kind of stepping
Can't be
outside my
discouraged.
lane here in terms of the funding portion of it. But I think we have to explore alternate options other than just a full replacement of a new one. Because one thing that you said, I think is true, is that size really needed for today's climate?
Yeah.
So maybe a smaller version or roll-away ones are an option where we just remove that one and take care of some of the safety concerns.
That's some of the things we're looking into, because like we have discussed, the big thing is safety. We may have to get a little bit of construction done on the box upstairs.
Oh,
Yeah, those steps are not safe, so we're kind of looking into that.
So is there, and I know we've talked about this privately a couple times, but is there no way to get some funding from the Harness Association since they're essentially the driver of the grandstand? I mean,
Yes, there is, and that's what we're working on with Pam Royer. But again, it's kind of one of those things, we have to get a plan in place of what we actually want to do
before they'll agree to fund something.
and then submit for that grant before they'll agree to funding. There is always, with the Standard Bread Association, we're very fortunate in this county as Pam Royer does a phenomenal job finding money for grants. If it involves the horse track and the horse racing, there's a good good chance we can get the grant money. But it, like anything, we have to submit 3 bids for the project, and then we have, apply for those grants, but we have to be specific with what the money's going to.
Okay. But do you have an idea of how much roughly you can apply for relative to the project? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
You can
Kinda
apply
gotta know.
for all kinds of amounts. I mean, in the past, anywhere from $10,000 to 150 or 60 or, I know when they redid and made it an all-weather track, I mean, there was a substantial amount of money that came from the Indiana Standard Bread. So, I mean, larger quantities, but, they, each year, it kind of does depend upon how many applications they got for grant money
Yeah,
from
cool.
other areas versus what's available per year.
Okay. Guys have any other questions?
Matt, you and your board have done a nice job.
Well, we're fortunate, we've got a great board that, try to think outside the box and just get stuff done. And, at this time, I would just like to recognize and thank the Sheriff's Department, for their involvement. And, the gentlemen that have been out there, they're pretty much out there 4 or 5 days a week now, just looking for something to do. So, I just keep coming up with little projects to, we just keep searching stuff to fix and get them the material and the equipment, and they're getting it done, so.
Nice job.
You want
Thank
to
you.
remind everybody when the fair is, just so.
July 8th through the 15th, we'll have another demolition derby.
It's the first weekend.
The
So
first weekend?
Truck and Tractor Pull will be July 8th, Derby will be Sunday the 9th.
Jeez.
Furnace Racing is Thursday and Friday of that week, and then the last Saturday will be like dirt drags.
Okay.
It's like 2.5
then 4-H
weeks.
stuff going on.
It's coming.
It'll be a busy week.
And one more quick thank you to Rick and his staff. They came out this past week and graded the drives and laid down a layer of stone and rolled it, and it looks phenomenal. And he's going to come back and, they patched a hole in our, out there in front of Clinton Hall, and we really appreciate the cooperation with he and his crew and the great job that they do to help us out.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
Okay. Next up is Renee Crick. See you, John.
Morning, Renee.
Forwarded you a contract with Crossroads and us. Crossroads is the company we utilize to keep our public safety mapping up to date that integrates with our Spillman CAD system. When we started with them, originally it was kind of like a third-party vendor, so we paid Spillman or Motorola, and then they paid Crossroads, but I would like to continue that with Crossroads. We don't need to have Spillman in the middle, or we can just work with them directly. I am looking at, they had 3 different options. A 1-year would be $14,000, a 2-year contract is $12,500, and a 3-year for $11,000. And I would like to have you sign and approve the 3-year contract, so it'd be $11,000 for three years each year.
Okay. I reviewed it. I had no issues. It had a early termination clause, so I was happy.
Yeah.
I assume you have the amounts budgeted for.
Yes,
okay,
yes, it
fine.
is. Yes,
Okay,
yep.
Better check. I'm fine with it.
Motion
guys
to
are-
approve the $11,000 3-year contract.
Second.
All right, motion carries 3-0 on the Crossroads GIS.
Do you need one to sign?
Have one right here.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Renee.
Thanks.
Okay, next up is, Liz is not here, so we'll move to Rick Campbell with a highway update. Good morning, Rick.
Morning.
Come on, Rick.
Last commissioners meeting, I was supposed to get the right-of-way service agreement for Bridge 21 signed, and I neglected to do that, so I'm here today to get that signed. I sent everybody the email on it.
Yep. So we need a motion for the right-of-way agreement for Bridge 21.
So moved. Oh, second.
Motion carries 3-0.
I talked with Jordan and Alan Dunn about getting some new tandem axle dump trucks. We got one more to pay for. We had a 5-year lease. We got one more to pay for. And I talked to our Freightliner dealer about that. And in 2027, they're going to change the pollution standards again, make them stricter.
Awesome.
And we're not going to be able to get the engine that we have right now. It's going to be from a 9-liter to a 6-liter engine. So I was,
2/3.
we got a option to buy, to lease 6 new Freightliners and pay for them in 5 years. $256 each year. And this year it'd be a little tight, but after that, we're under 480,000, I believe.
Yeah, so roughly where they come from, the LRS fund brings in
Yeah.
$540,000 a year. This year they would dip into their cash balance, but they have a cash balance of.
And I printed that off.
You have it all? Okay.
I printed
Cash balance
those.
of $1 million. So they end up using, I think, a little over 100,000 this first year, as they have kind of a double up payment because this fifth one he just mentioned, and then
Right.
the number, the 260, was for an advance payment,
Yes.
which saved I don't know, close to $70,000 or $80,000
Yes.
over the 5-year life.
Yeah.
But then the next couple of years, it's below the revenue each year, so it builds back the cash balance. So it seemed like a no-brainer to allow him to get 6 trucks before we get to 27, when they won't even push snow with the new emissions.
If we act quickly, why, they might be able to start getting them the first of the year.
Okay.
But we should get them. We should be able to get them.
Works for me.
Okay. The motion, do we want to make a motion to approve Rick to move forward with 6 new trucks?
Motion to approve the
Second.
purchase.
All right. Carries
Thank
3-0.
you. Well, we finished up chip seal on Monday, so just wanted to mention that.
Rick, before you leave too, I want to thank you for patching up the driveway out here by the court
You're welcome.
house.
We also
Nice.
got our new patch truck, and we also got our new little roller, which we used out front here to patch the driveway.
It's
So-
been a nice job.
Thank everybody for that stuff.
When does Kelly Road,
Pardon me?
when we start in Kelly Road?
Should be after the 4th of July, if not a little sooner. They may
Okay.
come out and do a little milling, light milling,
Okay.
yeah.
Just curious. Thanks, man.
The only thing I would say, Rick, you mentioned it to me, maybe next week or so, get together to do the scoring for which bridge?
I've got your stuff here.
Okay.
You can
Okay.
take it home with
Oh, we
you.
can take it home? Okay, great, thank you. We have the bridge that we need to get scored,
Gotcha.
so. Okay, we have no old business. We'll move on to new business. First item we have already taken care of, so the next is we have a party wall agreement with Arnie's. And so we currently have a party wall agreement because we share a wall with Arnie's. When this demo happens and construction of the new facility comes up, we will no longer share that wall. So that will be completely Arnie's wall, and we'll have our own wall that'll have kind of a little bit of separation and space. So this is just an agreement that the attorneys had written up that will basically take us off of that party wall agreement as soon as the demo's done and the construction of the new one happens. And we worked with Arnie's owner, Brad Cohen, to get this done, which he's already signed it, so. Entertain a motion unless there's questions on it.
No questions.
I'll make a motion to approve the party wall agreement, or dissolution thereof with Arnie's.
Yeah. Second, Bert?
Second.
Okay, motion carries 3-0. I'll sign it after. Next, we have a sign placement request. This is from the Clinton County Fair for the harness racing during the fair. And they want the sign to be placed preferred northeast or southeast corner, and basically as soon as possible and kind of through the time period of the fair. So I have no problem with it, so.
It's every year.
Motion to approve.
All right,
Second.
motion carries 3-0. Next up, department heads. Have any department heads? Richard.
I have a couple. Sheriff here. I've got, the chillers were turned on this past week at the sheriff's office on Monday. So far, no issues. I know we've had some issues at other places. There's a couple, through the company, through the manufacturer, they offer basically a service agreement, a checkup, checking the equipment for the next 3 years. There's a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, just about. And I asked our maintenance person to find another company as well to kind of compare prices. So I've already got the manufacturer's recommendations. It's a little pricey. I think it's under $5,000, but I think there's, either local companies or mechanical companies that we've used in the past. And obviously that's equipment that'll have a 1 year warranty. So 1 year from this past Monday on parts. And so that's something that I'll set in front of you guys to look at once I get the other company's information. The projects that we would like to complete, I just got the glass quotes. I will send that to you guys and to council. It was hanging on my door this morning, so I wanted to look at it before I put it all together in an email. But you're going to have quite a few documents on about 4 different projects that we'd like to start, and those are the quotes that'll be in there attached to it. So I'll get that sent to you today.
Okay.
That's really all I have. Thanks.
I had one, and it may be more for Ashley. They
Okay.
made a request to the insurance
Yes.
carrier.
Yep.
Can you just a little more background so I understand?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll have Ashley, because of the agreement that we have with the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
We've just come up on the 36th month where we're able to renegotiate that federal agreement. And so it's going through a new portal now. It's not the same process as 3 years ago. So those were just some things that we can enter that will increase our per diem value.
Okay. So we didn't have to do it 3 years ago when you originally did it. It's something new. Okay. So that'll help you get ideally more money
Ideally.
per day.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to make sure I understood. It was kind of vague and they were asking. It took a little bit of work. They're still working through it. I think they should have it this week because, we get the number just as one number. So they had to
Break it.
kind of figure out specifics, which was what you were asking for.
So now they've moved into it. The FBI actually controls it now, and it's through an entirely new portal that was not in place when we did the original. So it's broken down to allow us to enter those numbers for our per diem breakdown.
Nice.
Okay. So as accurate as possible
Yes.
will be our best scenario. Okay. All right. I'll let them know. I think we should get it by the end of the week for you.
Fantastic. And, but with that will increase the per diem hopefully and per inmate. So that'll be big time helpful for us.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else? Okay. Not seeing any. We'll just move on to commissioner reports.
I don't have anything. Gee.
Yep. Okay, go ahead.
Documents from courts.
Okay.
Sheriff's office and also Liberty Books. So I don't know how much.
I wondered about that.
Ballots, so probably add 50 boxes,
Okay.
single boxes, and then Liberty Books.
Yeah.
I sent Bert an email. So
I
I'll
haven't,
find out.
did you get my email back by chance? Because I wanted to see if we could, maybe the clerk and I could come down on Wednesday, tomorrow, and see what we got. Need to see what we have.
Two pallets are circuit court, those are marked. The ledger books, I'd have to go back and see if they're jail records or, I want to say they're county been a minute since I've seen those, because they're in a storage room off of like the area.
Steffi and I'd like to come down maybe tomorrow morning sometime.
Come on in.
Okay.
And we'll go search.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner reports.
I have one, just so you guys are aware. Actually, Liz isn't here. I've been getting beat up recently with the solar farm, some of the things that's going on apparently. In fact, while I was here, I've gotten 2 phone calls from the guy that lives right across the street from what they call the loading pad. But his complaint was they were working on Sunday. In fact, he had a bulldozer going past his yard 2 or 3 times at 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and he wanted to know if, in fact, there was an hourly withhold. And I would assume that we did say in the contract that work hours would be at a certain time. I don't know.
I think it's sun up to sundown, but I don't know that for sure. I mean,
And you think all 7 days?
I would assume so. I mean, I would almost make the argument that what would be different if someone was out there spraying the crop if it was in field versus running. I mean, you can't restrict that. That's protected under the covenant's right to farm. This is a little different, but we'd have to look. I don't remember if we excluded Sunday and said only 6 days a week or what it was. I'm not.
He was just upset that the tractor's going right in front of him.
Yeah,
And regretfully, of all the people, this particular gentleman is like 50 feet across from the main entrance.
Seems like they could strategically be a little smarter in terms of doing what they need to do.
Yeah,
in
so
certain
I'll get with
places.
Liz and see if we can't connect with them. I just wanted to let you guys know that, that's become an issue for him.
Be interested to know if that guy's been compensated by the company. Because I'm
My
pretty sure he
suspicion,
probably has.
my suspicions are that he has, because if you remember, when we first got started, he was every day calling 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
Now I'm down to once every month or so,
Hey, that's not too bad, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
So, any other items?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
I don't have anything, no.
I only have one thing that came out last week, which, it's sometimes out of sight, out of mind. And we had our litigation that we had with Rich and the sheriff over, started 2 years ago and had the ruling last summer in July. They exercised their right to take that to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals made a ruling last week on all 4 of the items that upheld the trial court. So now it's kind of in the next step if it'll go to the Supreme Court. So I felt that it was important that we put that out there, that there was a ruling last week. Okay, next item is we have our claims.
I think we're going to have to rough it.
We have claims dated June 9th in the amount of $11,786.14. Claims dated June 16th in the amount of $6,831.56. Biweekly claims dated June 20th in the amount of $1,319,766.96. And court claims dated June 20th in the amount of $41,017.16.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion carries 3-0. Next item is payroll from June 2nd in the amount of $496,568.19. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion carries 3-0. Next, we have our minutes from our June 5th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion carries 3-0 on the June 5th minutes. And then I have a couple different executive sessions. So first one is the joint executive session on April 18th. I wasn't present for that, so I will abstain from voting. I'll open it up to you two.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion carries 2-0. And then next, we have our minutes from the joint executive session on June 16th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion carries 3-0. Our next meeting will be July 3rd, here at 9 a.m. That I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I would.
How are you?